The president issues an executive order, but does that mean that negotiations are done for the second stimulus package? Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Evening's LALATE with a 1-hour special program just this evening about the stimulus package after an executive order was issued by the president minutes ago. This is part 2 of a 2-part video series. Earlier today at 6:45, I delivered in part 1 a recap of what's in the executive order, what you should expect from the executive order, and will that money be landing in your bank account or will it never be seen? This video is going to go over what you should expect this coming week after we now see an executive order and we see negotiations stall on the on the second stimulus check. It's been quite a week, we got to admit, and I've tried to keep it positive. I've tried to keep it motivated. There was a lot of things on the table and a lot of things we never heard of, but other things we heard a great deal about. When it all came to fruition, we heard nothing about what ultimately happened to the second stimulus check, for minor dependents or adult dependents, for second stimulus check for child support. We never heard what happened to FPUC on a long-term basis. We never heard what happened to hazard pay. We never heard what happened to PPP loans or what happened to rent grants, even though we were presumed to have heard that actually fell apart. So what really went wrong, and will you ever see your money? And who is to blame in this entire process? Ultimately, after looking at all the numbers and looking at what I've heard in the last 24 hours and seeing the tweets from the president this afternoon and seeing the comments from Nancy Pelosi earlier today, it's apparent that one issue singularly eroded the second stimulus package. What was it, LLA? It was the money to states. Yes. It wasn't your check. It wasn't FPUC. It was this big, massive hunk of money going to the states proposed by the Democrats. In fact, we now know it was. How do we know it? The president this afternoon said that he found that the reason why the negotiations fell apart was that money. It's ironic because earlier today, Nancy Pelosi said to news that she was about $200 billion apart from the Republicans on getting a deal done, even though a lot of the provisions had been settled. So I went to the math and I did it with you on camera and I said, what are the items that count up to $200 billion? And there's not many of them. It wasn't hazard pay. It wasn't FPUC. It was exactly the state money. Here's what happened. The president tweeted minutes ago, Pelosi and Schumer only interested in bailout money for poorly run Democratic cities and states. It's exactly what I had said. And it's exactly what Nancy had said. She had written a letter late this afternoon to her colleagues, which are basically people in her party. They're both in the Senate and the House, to say this is what went wrong and this is what happened and this is why we couldn't reach an agreement. And she had the numbers delineated for each of the items. She didn't mention all the items. She didn't mention hazard pay. She didn't mention, all the different things. But when she got to the states, she said they were literally $800 to $900 billion apart. It's exactly what the president has said and what I said. That is this enormous amount of money that states were campaigning for that ultimately the Republicans didn't want to give. What was this money for, and why did it erode your ability to get your check? The states in the first stimulus package had asked for a lot of money. The money was to be used for states for a lot of different purposes, whether it was COVID-19 testing or rent or grants or stuff with the homeless or stuff with their payroll. And states got a lot of money. Some didn't. And some were not fast in dispersing it out. I was very critical of New York and Andrew Cuomo because as you saw in my rent video about a week ago, he just launched a rent grant program in the state of New York for his citizens, but based upon money he got back in May. What took so long, Governor? In Los Angeles, they had very little money that they literally ran through in minutes. And in Texas, for example, they launched their program just days ago and they only had a few pennies. So states were asking for a lot of money, and the claim that it was only Republicans, only Democratic states is untrue. But states were asking for a lot of money. So was that right to hold up your stimulus and unemployment benefits to prop up states? My opinion, my personal opinion, was it was incorrect. It was an incorrect move by the Democrats to hold up stuff for citizens to ultimately prop up states. Now, states do have a liquidity problem. The liquidity problem was supposed to be solved by the Federal Reserve. It was not supposed to be solved by a package that was to help you. States do have a problem for liquidity. Because they aren't making tax revenue like they would normally do because businesses are shut down. But ultimately, your relief, whether it's a second stimulus check or FPUC or hazard pay, was held up because states demanded a lot of money for their purposes, and the Republicans didn't want to give it. Now, ultimately, the decision about whether the states are entitled to the money or not is a whole separate issue. But the issue that I have a complaint about is that their money was not their money. It was not citizens' monies. It was not viewers' money. It was not going to come to you directly. So why is your relief, as someone who you personally have struggled through this pandemic, held up because we have to help out the states? It's not right. The states should have had their own bill, and they should have had their own relief, and it should be separate apart from your relief. As we sat back and we discussed all this week about what's in the second stimulus package, and we talked about, federal buildings and meal deals for big businesses and travel deals for big businesses and airline bailouts for billion-dollar businesses, we had a real consistent message and agreement in the comments that this is a bill for people, not for businesses per se. This is a bill for people who have been waiting for their packages. As we started this week, we looked at this bill and we wondered, why is there a request for money for states in a bill that's coming out for relief for you? You needed relief for your money, for your family, for your food, for your electricity, to pay your rent. And yet again, once again, we were talking about a stimulus package that wasn't for you, that was caught up in a big ass check for states. Why is states' bailout supposed to be in your COVID-19 stimulus package? Ultimately, it's called a stimulus package, and the stimulus package means consumer spending. States getting money is not consumer spending. And so by Republicans saying we're not going to agree to the second stimulus package because there's a big amount of pork going to states, potentially they had a great contention. But the issue is whether the other items of the bill did eventually fall apart because of this big state payout, or whether they were always alive. What should you expect going forward, LALATE? When am I going to see my check? When am I going to see hazard pay? What am I going to do with my bills? And how am I supposed to survive? A lot of people have, been very kind in the remarks to the afternoon videos in which I first detailed that the negotiations fell apart. I'm sure to see what happens when you get the reaction to the executive order. But it's a difficult day for a reporter in which the messenger is often shocked because of the message. And that was what happened today to some regards. People were very upset. And if you don't know, in a given day, I have to literally go through the comments that are held for spam. And they're held for spam because of four-letter words. There was a lot of four-letter words today, not directed at me, but directed at Congress, directed at the people who negotiated the room. People were very angry. What my first topic of advice is the following, is for us to all settle down, for us to all stay calm, for us to all stay motivated. Because defaulting to a lot of expletives and profanity is really not the time and place for now. We're going to get through this together, and I know we are. So as to your stimulus check first, you're going to get your stimulus check. You're just not going to get it this week. When could you see it? Someone asked me a question. Well, now that there's no deal this week, when could we see the check? The good news is that Steve Mnuchin, if we would believe him at this point, I don't know if anyone believes Steve Mnuchin. I think we'd believe Mr. Potato Head more than we believe Steve Mnuchin at this point. But see, Mnuchin claims you can get your check by electronic delivery it can be sent out by this Treasury 7 days after the bill becomes law. So based upon that, there's still a likelihood you can get it if there's an agreement on this package sometime this month. You could get it in August. The question is when these people are actually going to agree upon something. Next, would it be taken out for child support? I don't know. It doesn't look like child support really was a thing for the Republicans to go to the mat for. If we're to read the tea leaves, and it's really hard to read the tea leaves in this one, it appears that the Republicans were more concerned about spending rather than what's being spent on. They didn't like the amount of money dedicated to the U.S. Postal Service, so the Democrats cut it back. They didn't like the amount of money being spent on free rent, so they didn't want to give a single penny on it. So when we talk about stimulus checks being taken out for child support, it's not something sort of consistent with what the Republicans were having an issue with. As Nancy Pelosi said, they were deficit hawks. They were having problems with the amount of money that was being spent in this package. Next, FPUC. What's the likelihood of you see FPUC? Boy, I really don't know. I think you will see $600 a week. I think that what the president did this afternoon in the executive order by saying he's going to issue an executive order for FPUC, knowing darn well, and no, I'm not being political, knowing darn well that we've all been arguing about the number for FPUC for a week, and he has a press conference and he says he's going to extend it, but he doesn't give you the number. It's sort of like, hello, sir. We know we want to extend FPUC. That's a no-brainer. That's Captain Obvious. We want to know the amount you're going to extend FPUC at, because no one wants to sit here and hear it's $100. Now, the great news about his extending the FPUC, which is not going to happen, as you watch the first video, it's against the Constitution, it's never going to pass. But his desire, at least, to extend FPUC was the time frame. He said he wanted to do it to December, which is almost aligned to the Democrats, which is to January, after he had offered $600 for 1 week, $200 for 4 weeks, $0 for 3 weeks. I mean, we had seen all these short little time frames, and now we see this great long time frame. That's really great news. In a strange twist that may actually help negotiations going forward, that the president has now jumped ahead and given more to the Democrats than even Mnuchin and Meadows had given. So maybe that could kickstart negotiations. Next, what's interesting is that the president did not come out in favor of anything that Mitch wanted, or anything that may have been tying up the stimulus package deal. So going forward, that also may suggest progress. The president was not interested in doing a federal building or a meal deal or travel deal or airline bailouts or student loan forgiveness. He wasn't interested in the post office or PPP, which is actually quite interesting. So it wasn't all big business Mitch McConnell-ish. The president was sort of middle of the road, which is very, very on point. So what's interesting is that his proposal by his 4 executive orders this afternoon really did not mirror at all what Mitch McConnell had wanted in the second stimulus package, did not mirror what Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin had been arguing, and does not mirror what a lot of Republicans in the Senate wanted as well. It's much more centralist, if we're going to use a political term, which we have to this time. It's more towards the center. It's not conservative, and it's not liberal. It's more towards the center. So will negotiations kick up? We really don't know. This is Friday afternoon, and these people literally can't keep their stories straight. The birds it's like the Sea of Hawks. I think the birds are going to eat me alive before the end of this video and just leave you the scar. If they eat me alive, donate my shirt to Javita. She'll appreciate it. As we go into the weekend, I really don't know when or how these negotiations will start again, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are. These people really can't keep a story straight, and that was the overwhelming comments that people had today. Boy, I'm going to be going through the spam comments of the expletives till 2 a.m. in the morning, just clearing this and clearing that. But people were really pissed, and it's rightfully so to be pissed. But this is my final personal message to you, which I had to end with. The spirit of Americans is getting through things. We are fighters. We don't give up. We get hit and we get pushed down and we get back up. We were built on a country that, came to this continent, and then defended our rights and, formulated a nation. So we are strong people. The viewers of this channel are very, very strong people. The spirit of this channel has always been helping one another and never giving up. Early on, a lot of you may not have known me in this channel because this channel was very, very small then. We're adding about 12,000 new subscribers a day. Please like and subscribe. And about 1.2 million views every 48 hours, which is just insane. But when we were early on, I did a video the third or fourth day. No, I correct myself. The first week. I did it after the first week. I saw the traffic dropping. At that time, the traffic was like 20 people or something. But I saw the traffic dropping. I said, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. I mean, no one's watching. No one cares. No one's watching. I was doing PPP and the IDL and FPUC and all that wonderful stuff and stimulus. And I said, no one's watching. I don't think I'll do it. And so a couple people started jumping in the comments. They're like, LALATE, we're not watching the video just for you to tell us how to do a PUA application with our state website, or for EIDL, just helping us with EIDL. We're also watching the video because you're inspiring us. You're keeping us motivated. You're keeping us positive. You're keeping our spirits up. And these are people who really were defeated. A lot of them had given up. And then my earlier videos detail a lot of people who had given up, but for my encouragement, my energy, they did not. And quickly I learned that it's my spirit on camera that has helped a lot of people get through the pandemic. I'm going to give you an example before I end this video. Curvon is one of my earliest 200 viewers, and he had applied for an EIDL loan, which is a loan mechanism under the first stimulus package for his business. He could not make rent. He was unable to make rent. This is before we're talking about eviction moratoriums. He could not make rent. He got stuck in what we called initially the 4-8 vortex. He couldn't get his loan approved. He had nothing. His business was struggling. I mean, his business was being desecrated by the pandemic. And he had no money. He had turned to SBA for this EIDL and he had nothing. They offered him $1,000. $1,000. And he's like, what is this loan? This is nothing. I can't survive to next year with $1,000. It'll be eaten up by my first check, my first bill. So what he did was he went and lived in his car. And he fought, and he fought, and he watched my guidance, and I guided him as well. And daily I would do videos. I said, you don't give up, you don't give up, you don't give up. You get what you have to do. You do this, and you do this, and you will get your loan. Guess what he told me yesterday? Yesterday, now in early August, he not only got his loan, he got the full amount he could possibly qualify for, a lot of money, and he got every single penny he wanted. And he said, it's because of you. It's because of you. That's the spirit of not giving up. And I understand a lot of you are in very, very difficult situations. Some of you are financially in very difficult situations. Some of you are in very emotional situations. This is very stressful for you. I want you to stay positive. I want you to stay motivated. I don't want you to give up. We're here together as a family. I enjoy doing this. I hope you enjoy doing this. There's always a hater in the comments. You're never going to see the comment. It's never going to post. It's over to the left. It's over to the left in the box with your clothes. Whether Beyonce wrote those lyrics or not, that's another story. But I am not going anywhere, and I am here for you, and you're here for me. So we're going to get through this. The story is not over. The negotiations are not done as of Friday. You will see your money. You're just not going to see it today. Thank you for joining me for a 1-hour special of the second stimulus package with his executive orders. See me tomorrow morning on LALATE Mornings at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Have a great evening.